everybody, welcome. I'm just going to give a couple minutes for people to get here, then we'll get started. So I'm going to get started. Hello and welcome. I hope everybody is having a great day. So today we are going to be talking about enrolling and increasing enrollment in your child care center. And I just want to thank everybody for watching this and for being here. Whether you're watching the replay or you're here with me live, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be here today. Again, we will be recording this every day, so if you don't get a chance to see each session throughout the week, they will be recorded, so don't worry about it. If you miss a session, you can always watch the playback, or if I go too fast for you, I will be posting this for you to play back, so it will be here for you. So I will keep that posted within the group. I will be creating a unit piece within the group so that you'll easily be able to find each one of the videos and any of the attachments that I give out for this training. I will have it listed under units. Units can be found in the same area where you find events and different things like that, files. There will be a section that says units that we will be actually putting up also. So, and you guys, I just mentioned really quick, I always talk with my hands, so just so you know, I do move around a lot. And also, just to let you know, we will be here every day this week at 4 p.m. I am doing a different section. I have done a different training in the past on enrollment, and it was really hard for you guys to get it completed. It is a 2.5-hour training. Most of us don't have 2.5 hours. So I'm trying to break this down into smaller, more achievable goals for you guys, so that you have some more time, so you can break it up, so it's not just one big chunk of time. So it will be just broken up into smaller, more achievable units. That's why we're doing it every day at 4 p.m. And on Saturday, I will be going live just to answer your questions. So if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. If I don't get them all answered during the live presentations that I'm doing, I will be dedicating Saturday to just answering questions. So whether you're watching the recording or you're watching live, go ahead and put your messages in the comments, put your questions in the comments, and I will be answering all of those on Saturday at 8 a.m. actually Pacific Standard Time. And if you want to jump on live with me so you can interact and ask questions, that is no problem also. So again, you can just post questions and whatever. I will be picking through and answering as many as I can. And if you DM me, I'm always open to answering your guys' questions. So also, I just wanted to go into how I've structured the workbook. The way the workbook is structured is I'm hoping that you guys will really interact and fill it out and do the work. Really, when it comes to enrolling in your child care center, I will teach you the strategies I use and the foundation pieces, but you are going to need to adapt for your center. You are going to need to personalize it and make it your own. So the workbook is going to play off of the different things that I'm going through with you now, and hopefully you'll be able to take that and go through, fill it out, and adapt it to your personal needs. So it really is designed so that you will be able to use it for your specific center. So a lot of it, as you notice, if you looked at the workbook yet, it is a lot of filling out answers and question and answer. And that's really so you can adapt it to your program. If I were to teach you exactly what I do at my center, it probably wouldn't work for your center. Our sizes are different, our curriculum styles might be different, our philosophies are different, so you really want to make it your own. So I am going to be showing you the overall strategies that we use and that I've started using that got my center to the wait list in the position it's in now. And so while you guys arrive, say hi in the comments, let me know you're there. Just I love to know that you're here watching, so drop a comment, let me know that you're here. And some more housekeeping just as we go through. Also, I wanted to let you know with the workbook, I am giving you guys the tools that I use in my center and the tools that have helped me build my center up to be a center with a 2-year wait list. So that is really the proven practices that I use every day at my own childcare center. So I'm sharing these with you because it is really just my passion to help other owners grow. I want to see other owners succeed. The other thing, I was a struggling owner for many years. I really struggled and it was so hard. I know what it feels like to be in that position, to be an owner and a director that is struggling, that is just, you're fighting for enrollment, you're fighting to make ends meet, and nothing seems to work. So I decided at one point, I realized that I had to think out of the box. I couldn't stick with industry standards anymore. Industry standards just were not working, especially when the economy got really bad. So I decided I had to do something and to reinvent the wheel. So I hired a business coach, and she isn't childcare specific. She just does business in general, but she really taught me that you have to bring these business principles into childcare if you're going to succeed. And she really just changed my entire business. So what I bring to you is what she taught me, and I've just taken it and made it childcare specific. And I've worked with her side by side for over 2 years. I still work with her. It's just so important for each of us to have a coach. I cannot say enough wonderful things about her. But I still work with her. She is my accountability partner and just so important to my business. So I've taken the business knowledge that she's given me, and I'm just trying to pass it on to you. I also do have degrees in early childhood education, psychology, human development, and I do have the experience. So I've been able to take my experience in the childcare world, plus the business knowledge I've gained, marry it to make a successful center. So I'm just hoping I can bring that to you guys out there. Also, I wanted to let you guys know that each session really does build on the other. So it is really important that you do watch every one of these sessions and use the workbook along with the sessions to build that perfect environment for enrolling children into your center. I am going to teach you how to attract the children to your center, how to get the tours in the door, and I'm going to teach you how to enroll them. So getting them there is just the first step, right? Getting them there is just really the first step. Then we've got to tour them, and then we have to make sure they choose us. So those are the steps I'm going to walk you through this week. The other thing I wanted to start off with too is just talking to you guys a little bit about our calling. We're called to ECE, right? This is where our passion is. You were called here. And most of us are not business-minded people. So some of the things that I'll be teaching you guys, it is going to have to be a mental shift from what you're used to. You're going to have to change the way you think. It really just is. It's just becoming a more business-minded owner. And it is something that my business coach has taught me, something I'm hoping to pass on to you, that we really just need to learn how to become business-minded people in order to become successful. So just be ready. Some of the things, I do go away from industry standard, but it is what we need. If we cannot fill our centers if we're doing the same exact thing that the center down the street and the center down the other way and the 10 other centers that are surrounding us. Most of our markets are pretty saturated, right? You know what, if you guys are in a saturated center, give me a yes in the comments, let me know. But you might be just the only center. I know sometimes we can be saturated with unlicensed in-homes. That can be something that's really tough for us to deal with because they tend to be really cheap if they're not licensed. So even if you are an in-home provider, sometimes competing with the ones who are not licensed can be very difficult for us. So, I know how that goes, and whether you're saturated with centers, you may be saturated with in-homes, you've got to do something different to stand out from the crowd. So that is what I'll really be focusing on, is teaching you guys how to stand out from the crowd. So that's what I just want, just so be ready. Some of it isn't what we normally do, but it's all doable stuff. It's just a different way of thinking and a way to get you guys to open your mind to how you're going to do some new things. Let's see. And I just really want to help you guys do success. And by the way, you guys, I've got my laptop here keeping me on task. So if I look down, I'm just checking my notes on my laptop to make sure I'm staying on point. So I'm going to start the teaching with talking about the pillars to enrolling in your childcare center, the pillars of success. There are basically 4 pillars that you need in order to have a successful childcare center. And the first pillar that you need is to know what makes your center unique. I will go through these in detail every day, so I'm just going to give you a brief summary today. But what you really need to know is, what is your center's superpower? What is your it factor? I've also heard it called your queen bee role. If you think of the queen bee in the beehive, all the bees just fight to protect the queen, right? So you need to know, what is it about your center that makes your center stand out? That is your center's superpower, or your center's queen bee role. You've got to identify it. You've got to know what it is. For my center, it's quality. We are a very high quality program. I have my center actually scored high enough to be a 5-star QRAS rated center. We are going through NACE accreditation. We take every individual child's needs very seriously. So my center's queen bee role that we have to protect and has to be first and foremost is quality. Quality is really what drives my center's success. And by the way, you guys, another housekeeping, my dog is in here with me. So I'm at home doing this. I am, just a family lady like you guys. And so a lot of times you guys my dogs will jump around, and my 16-year-old son might open the door. So just to let you know, sorry. Now back to the topic. So just knowing, identify your center. I have other workshops, you guys, that I go through that will help you find what your queen bee role is. But I do have some questions here to help you with that too. We will dive into that a little bit. That is a whole other 2-hour program that I do, but I will try and help you guys just touch on the surface of what that is. The second thing is your online presence. Your online presence is so incredibly important. I know that's something that we in the childcare world don't like to think about, but I want you to think, when you're going to a restaurant, or if you're going to do anything, what is the first thing you do? We pull out our phone and we ask Siri, or we Google it, right? I have an Android, so I go to my Hey Google, and we Google what we're looking for. That's what our parents are doing. They're Googling for childcare centers. They are not just finding us organically. I'm sorry, you guys. My dog is... Let me get her out of here. Get her out of here. Thanks.
Are you doing it right?
Yes. Sorry about that, guys. So just knowing that you've got to have a strong online presence is very, very important, right? The other thing that's really important is being found on your online presence. And if you love a restaurant, right? Like, think of some of the little mom and pop restaurants that you really, really like around you. Google restaurants near me. Do they come up? Sometimes they don't, right? It's just that you've lived in the same area, they happen to be there, but you want to make sure that you're found. You want to make sure you're found first, right? So that is very important. Our online presence is extremely important in our day and age. The other thing I want you to think about with online presence is, what is the demographic that we're serving? We are serving people with young children, right? So they tend to be younger. So that demographic is so much more dependent on social media and on finding things through Google and whatnot than we are at my age, right? So if you're a younger director or a younger owner, that's not so much a problem for you. But when you're starting to get like in your 40s and older, it does become more of an issue because we're not used to that. So it's something that you really have to be aware of. Know your demographic. Down below, you're going to see I have some questions for you that will actually help you identify who is your target market so that you know that you're targeting them correctly. The next pillar to enrolling your children in your center is just prioritizing your professional persona. Think about what parents are going through. If they're touring multiple centers, who are they going to choose, right? You need to look your best all the time. You have to have a professional persona. So you have to always look like you've got your stuff together. And I know that being in the childcare world is chaotic, right? We live in a chaotic or situation all the time. Childcare is organized chaos all the time. So, you know what? Give me a hashtag organized chaos if you know what I'm talking about, or if you ever feel that way in the comments, just give me a hashtag organized chaos, because that is the world we live in childcare. We just thrive in that organized chaos. And that is something that we just really can't show through to tours, though. You've got to always have that best foot forward, whether you're answering the phone or on a tour. So your professional persona is very important. Making sure the copies that you're giving out are clean, photocopied pages for your tour packets. It's got to look good. Just remember, they're going to be touring other centers. They're going to be touring homes. And who would you choose? Would you choose someone who really looks like they've got it together and they're super professional? Or would you choose somebody who looks kind of chaotic, right? So we're caring for people's most important asset, the most important thing in their life. I don't want to say the word asset, but the most important thing. And so we need to look like we earn it. We've got to look the part. You know, you could be the best childcare provider in the world, but if you look sloppy and unprofessional, are you really going to be the first choice? You always have to have that professional foot. So the last thing, and it's always surprising to me how many child care centers do not do this one at all. It's follow-up. I cannot stress the importance to you on follow-up. During the follow-up day, I'm going to give you guys some statistics on follow-up that'll blow your mind. But one of the things I just want to leave you guys with for today, just as our first day, and just to tell you how important follow-up is. But did you know that the average consumer does not make their purchase or does not decide to enroll in your center for up to 6 months? Think about that. They will tour you for 6 months. Hi, Tina. I saw you just pop up. Your average tour may not sign up with you for 6 months from the time they tour to the time they make that decision. And just kind of think about those stay-at-home moms that really aren't ready to go to work yet, that they really just haven't made that total commitment, but they're just thinking about it. How long can it take them to make that final commitment to your center, right? So if you're not following up, if you're not gathering information and keeping a database of people who are touring your center, you are losing out on so much business. And statistically, 80% of centers do not gather follow-up information, and only 5% of centers who actually gather information do something with it. So if you're one of that 5% that is actually doing something with the information that you're gathering, then you really probably will be at the top of their list for enrollment, right? So follow-up is just huge, you guys. I cannot stress to you guys how important that is, and which is why I am going to be dedicating an entire session on follow-up. And I can tell you that if you start a really good follow-up campaign, you will be set apart in your center. Hi, Amber. Your son is here. So, sorry, guys. But just know that it is just really, really important that whether a person signs up with your center now, you want to get their information. You want that data. It is just vitally important. The next thing I want to go into is just really diving into what makes your center unique. Let's really just dive into that. Finding your center's superpower. And you really do want to market your center's superpower. So the questions I've set up here for you, we'll talk about those a little bit. And so just to help you identify, those you're going to use when you're marketing your center. And that's what's going to set you apart. I listen to, you guys know, I spend most of my time either listening to business books or listening to business podcasts. And one of the things I'm really focused on right now is a concept that's called selling to the gap, and just really finding what is it that makes you stand out and what makes you different. And that's something that's really fueled my center, is just finding what makes us unique, right, in our area. So finding that out might take some work on your part. You might have to go tour some other centers in your area, make some phone calls. If you have a really good relationship with the other owners in your center, be honest with them. Tell them what you're trying to do. Tell them that you're trying to come up with a marketing campaign and that you realize that you're not going to be able to serve every family. We are not always the perfect fit for every family, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? We need multiple centers. We need Montessori's, we need Raggios, we need emergent curriculum. We need all of that, right? And so that we can serve all the different families that need us. Our job is really just to serve families. And what we really want to do is try and attract the families that fit our programs the best. So if you team up with some of your other local centers and just tell them the truth, I am not going to be a fit for everybody. You're not going to be a fit for everybody. Why don't we work together and find out what our strengths are and come up with our marketing campaign to target the people that we are best suited for? So if you work together well like that, that would be fantastic. Then you guys can tour each other's centers and really kind of work together to figure that out. I know that that's a perfect world scenario, and that doesn't always play out that clean, right? I know I know there's some around me, there are some competitors who would not welcome that at all. And then there are some I can work with. Like today, I actually spent the first couple hours of the day working with a center in a neighboring town. She's really not a direct competitor of mine, but I'm more than happy to help other owners in my area. I'm more than happy to tour, give my information out. It's something I don't mind at all. But I also know that there's some that wouldn't. I could go 50 miles away and they're still not going to help me, just get some ideas and whatnot. So just know what's going to, if you're in a position where you just absolutely know that your competition will not let you in their door and there's just no way you're going to get that information, send family to tour, get some tour packet information, just so that you're not. One of the things I really want to stress here, though, is you're not looking for any kind of deficiency in that center. One of my rules in business is if I have to bash someone else's business, or if I have to find fault in someone else's business, then I'm doing something wrong in my own business, right? If I am doing everything right and doing the best I can, then there is no reason for me to bash someone else's center. The only time that I'm in that position is when I feel like I'm just not doing something, so I'm looking for things to justify why I'm not living up to my standards. So I'm not telling you guys to gather information about your competition in order to find their flaws. I'm just telling you to find what makes you different, what makes you unique. How do you stand out from them? I am an emergent curriculum-based center. We also believe in guidance versus discipline. A competition might be much more discipline focused. So they're going to be much better suited for a family that is more authoritative, right? I am not a good fit for authoritative families because I believe in coming from a place of teaching, not punishing. So if you have a family who is really strict and it believes in like timeout and stuff like that, my center is not going to be a good fit for them, because I believe that guidance takes precedence over punishment. And so those are the kind of things. Does it make my style better than someone else's? Absolutely not. It's just different, right? So what we want to do is really sell to that client that has the same, like their philosophies are similar to mine. Okay, so just keep that in mind. You're just looking for the differences, what makes you different, what sets you apart. You're not looking to bash your competition. That's bad business practice, and it leaves a bad taste in your customer's mouth. The other thing is, sometimes you're going to find gaps that aren't being filled in your area. And that is something that happened to me also, where you're just going to realize, like, oh, wait a second, nobody is serving this part of the population. In the city that I'm in now, there was a point where nobody was serving infants at all. So I actually have, for children under 2, I have 3 classrooms for children birth to 2 years old, right? And then I actually have 4 infant toddler classrooms in my center. And I only have 2 preschool classrooms, 2 preschool and pre-K, because we have public pre-K here. So that was a gap that was happening in my center. And I believe I'm still the only one serving children under 5 months old. So that's a gap. So you can see that there's this need in your area, and you can fill that gap, right? So just kind of think about that. The other gap that was happening in my city is that we live really close to the biggest industrial park in the world. Those jobs start at 6 a.m., but nobody was opened early enough for those jobs. So I changed my hours to 5:30 a.m., right? So if you need to shift your center hours earlier to accommodate needs, you got to be open to that. So those are the kind of things I mean by you've got to shift your thinking. You've got to think like a business person when you're running a childcare program. It doesn't always work to think like a childcare person. If you guys listen to my podcast, one of the things I say a lot is the director in me and the owner in me sometimes have a struggle. And the director in me wants to do things this way, but the owner in me is saying like, no, that's just not practical. It doesn't make business sense. So you have to find that happy medium, but sometimes you do have to think out of the box. So if you're really struggling to fill your center, sometimes changing your hours might have to be an option. For a while, I was opening on Saturdays when the demand was there. So just kind of think about that. So I actually have very long hours. I'm open from 5:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. I do serve different families. Like we actually have a lot of families that work 4 12-hour days, right? So an example of another thing I do in order to accommodate families that work 12-hour days is I charge the same amount for 4 and 5 days a week. Because if you think about it, a family that works a traditional 9 to 5 schedule and their child is there 5 days a week, is their child's actually there the same amount of hours as another family whose child is there 4 days a week but has a 12-hour schedule, right? A 10 or 12-hour schedule. So, and when I say 12 hours, I don't mean they actually work 12 hours. I mean like their commute time. That's including their commute time. So my 4 and my 5 day a week, it's the same. It's the same price. I don't give them a difference on that just because a lot of times it turns out to be the same amount of hours anyway. So filling the gap, you might find that you have a huge amount of customers that need you to stay open till 7 p.m., but nobody in your area is doing it. So sometimes gaps are not just things that you already have in place. Sometimes they're needs that you're going to find that nobody is serving. Okay, so keep that in mind and be ready to think outside the box. So the other thing is you want to learn how to brag about yourself. And in our society, it's almost taboo to brag about yourself, right? And so that's something that you really want to learn how to do is what does make you different? Don't be afraid to let people know. How many years have you been in ECE? Have you been in early childhood education for 20 years? That's wonderful. Look at how long has your staff combined been in ECE. I know my staff's combined experience is over 100 years. That's something worth bragging about, right? So don't be afraid to brag about what you have accomplished in your career. Okay, so it's okay to let people know what you're great at, right? Um, so list that stuff. Take the worksheet that I made for you. If you guys need more paper, get out a separate piece of paper and write up those things. What are those wonderful things? Think about what is your philosophy on discipline and guidance, and be proud of your philosophy. Write it out. Say, this is what we believe in because. Just have a good reason why. Like for me, I believe in guidance because research shows that guidance is what works and discipline doesn't actually really accomplish anything. So that's what, is in my paperwork, is that this is what the research shows. If you want real results, then we need to come from a place of teaching, not punishing. So, just be ready to really just brag about what you believe in and stand by it. Okay. Also, look at your staff's experience. I, at one time, had a staff member that had her bachelor's degree in child psychology. So that's something I would definitely like. Oh, one of my staff members has their degree in child psychology. I have a degree in neuropsychology. So that is something I absolutely tell parents when I'm touring. Is like, yes, I have a degree in neuropsychology and human development. Find those things that you may not think are brag worthy, but a lot of times they are. Think about the extra perks you might have around your facility, right? So like my facility is the entire perimeter is locked. We have cameras. I have a state-of-the-art security system. We also had our local sheriff's department come in and do an active assailant training. So that's something that I do brag a little bit about when I do tours, is, that I do these active assailant trainings for my staff every couple of years. And that we've actually had the sheriff's department come out and check our facility to make sure that it is ready and we're ready for any kind of threat like that. So, it might be something that you guys are used to every single day. If you have, like, I know I have ProCare, so all the parents have to have the code coming in the door. Brag about that, you guys, especially on your website. Some facilities don't do that. They don't have those locking mechanisms. So, to us, it's everyday stuff, but you got to remember, to parents, they don't know our industry. They don't know when they're going shopping, especially new parents. They have no idea what is an industry standard. So some things you might be thinking it's minimal, it's not a big deal, but parents don't know that. So make sure that those are the things that you're bragging about. You've got it on your website. You have it on your marketing materials. You talk about it on tours. You're telling them over the phone. Also, don't underestimate those everyday things that we do just to get licensed, okay? Parents don't know, again, right? And again, remember, they might be touring a lot of providers that are not licensed. So make sure you let them know. Every one of my staff is background checked. We have to do so many hours of ongoing training every year. We are all CPR and first aid certified, and I know that that is just normal stuff that every single one of us do anyway, but parents don't know that, and the other centers aren't bragging about it. So when you start to brag about it, it's going to open those eyes, right? The parents are just gonna be like, oh wow, they do all of that. And a lot of them are going to just ask the other centers, right? But a lot of them aren't. So a lot of them are just going to assume that that is unique to you, because you're the one who's putting it out there. I have all of that on my website. So when parents are doing that initial Google search and they're finding me online and they're looking at my website, they're going to see that I have all of these great perks, right? I am just flooding them with all these perks and just showing them like how wonderful my center is, and look at, we do this and we do that, and I have a garden and I've got pet pigs. Did you guys see my pet pigs picture I put up the other day? It's just another, so think about your pets. You might have guinea pigs or something. Explain to the parents. A lot of parents don't have pets. So one of the things I used to tell parents is, who didn't have pets. I was like, look, we've got the pets here. The children are still getting the experience and the enrichment from having a pet. They're still learning their responsibility. They're still getting that great experience of learning how to nurture and love another, animal. But you don't have to deal with it at home. We're doing all the dirty work for you, right? So finding those little things and learning how to just find that positive, like, and we're doing it for a reason, right? If you've got fish, you do fish for a reason. They're not just there to take up space. They serve a purpose. What is that purpose? And brag about it. Let parents know what is that purpose and brag about it, right? So I'll go into that a little bit more when I talk about how you're doing tours, because when you're doing tours, I'll really point out to you guys how I find specific things that are going on in my center, and I really work on pointing those out to the parents so that the parents can really just notice and know that, there's a purpose behind the littlest thing. So we'll go into that into more detail. Do you guys have any questions so far? Anyone have a question? Any comments? I'd love to see something in the comments, maybe an emoji or something. There's lots of you guys on here, but I kind of feel alone on this side of the camera. Although I do have my little pug with me. Are you guys liking it so far? Am I making sense? I hope. So again, the big takeaway on that one is just don't be afraid to what you think of as an everyday normal thing. Don't be afraid to brag about that. Okay. The other one is know your customer base. Know who you're serving. Really just get to know that who you're serving and who. Thank you, Selma. Just know who you're serving and know who they are. And I mean, like, really get to know them. One of the things that I've done was when I was really trying to figure out who am I targeting, what is my target market, was I really came up with like a list of where are these people, who are they. I wrote out an entire list of what kind of car do they drive, what kind of food do they go grocery shopping for. Are they grocery shopping at Walmart? Or are they grocery shopping at, like, where I'm at? We have a Rayleigh's, which is like Bel Air. Oh, thanks, Sherry. Sorry, guys, I'm reading so Bel Air, or, are they a Walmart shop? You got to know these things, right? Are they a Target type of person, or are they a Walmart type of a person? And the reason you want to know these kind of things is because you want to know who you're targeting, how are you going to approach them, and where are you going to find them. Okay, so I briefly, in your guys' worksheet, I gave you some very, very brief questions about this, right? Like, I do ask about what are the traits and habits that'll attract some of your families. If you're in like the San Jose area, for example, you are going to be a very different market than we are here in Fernley, Nevada. Fernley, Nevada is a very, we're a cowboy country for sure. And so it's going to be a very type of different, market there, where like you're going to want to serve organic food and different things. And, if you're in the Silicon Valley area. Oh, I'm sorry, you guys. I've got a question really quick from Sue. Do you have a webmaster who keeps your website up to date? No, I actually do it myself, Sue. I use HostGator. And HostGator has a very, very easy program that I actually use that. I just do it by myself. It's pretty easy. One of the things I am going to say about that, and I will go into this tomorrow a little bit. If you're in a smaller community like me, it's totally fine to do your own website. If you're in a bigger area, though, and there's a lot of competition, you probably want to pay someone to do it. So like for my coaching business, I do pay a webmaster for that because that is a totally different type of business. But here, it's in Fernley, it doesn't need to be that beautiful. So what I would do, Sue, is I would look at your competition's websites. And if that looks super professional, I would hire a virtual assistant. To, like, if you find a virtual assistant. And you guys all know I have my virtual assistant Callie, who does a lot of my posting. I don't know if she's taking on new clients, but she's awesome. If she's not, I can ask her for referrals. But that's something too. Virtual assistant is a little bit cheaper than a webmaster, but just so you guys know. Okay, so I have another. Miriam is asking recommendations for surveillance cameras. I agree that it is a very important selling point. It absolutely is. I don't have one and need to invest. Funds, of course, are always yes, funds are an issue. Cameras can actually be pretty inexpensive. If you find I actually used a website designer to do my cameras. I did not use a security company, and that was a lot cheaper. I got mine done for under $1,000. So yes, you can do it pretty cheap on Amazon. You're absolutely right, Sue. Amazon does have some pretty cheap cameras if you can do it yourself. That's the only problem. Mine are pretty intense. I have a really big building, and we have about 16 cameras. So with the DVR unit, that was just over my head. You can also think, if you've got a smaller program, look at the nanny cams on Amazon and Cami. I think it's called Cami cameras. Those are actually pretty cool. My husband had those at our house for a while, and it was only like $40 a month. And they're kind of like a nanny cam that you just set up in each classroom. One of the things, you guys, I do not recommend anymore letting parents see your cameras any longer. And if any of you guys have a differing opinion, please feel free to say why. I can just tell you, for me, it was just so much work. And it was never that, there wasn't any issues like quality wise. It was kind of the silly things that it was just tough. Like, I would have a parent call and say, hey, my daughter's looking for her. So those were just really hard on, and so cameras were, I don't know, they just were more trouble than they were worth. And I still record everything in my facility on premises. If a parent ever has an issue, they can come and view cameras on my premises. I just don't give out the passwords anymore. It was just so much work. And it was never what you would think it was there for. It was the silliest thing. It really was. I mean, it would just be like, why is my child sitting in the library by themselves? And it's just kind of like, well, they just need some time alone. So it was just so time consuming. So, let's see. Monica says, my husband is in IT. We have Lorax cameras for our larger site, 23. Oh, nice. 23 cameras. For our smaller site, we have Nest cameras. Oh, yeah, the Nest would be nice, but I'll have to look into the Lorax. That's awesome. But yeah, so the ones I did, I only have 16. I need to get a few more though. My playgrounds could definitely use more cameras. But yeah, I love cameras. One of the things we did for a while too is we had a monitor in our lobby so that the parents could watch when they wanted to. So in my facility, I don't mind. They can watch all they want. We also have an open door policy. It just got to be so much work for my assistant director when we had them, just because, and you know what, it's kind of ironic because it was always the grandparents. The grandparents who aren't working would watch the cameras all day, and they would call for the silliest things, like, and it was just literally like, my daughter took her shoes off. My granddaughter took her shoes off. Sorry, you guys. I'm sorry. We need to get those shoes put back on her. So you guys, give me a second. I'm going to put my dog out of the room. I thought my son took her. Come on, baby. I'm sorry about that. That's one of the things about working from home, right? So yeah, it just, I don't know. I think they're more trouble than they're worth. But getting back, I will talk a little bit more about website, but I wasn't going to talk about cameras, so that was a good subject for us to go over. So filling the gap in your market, sometimes if you look at the different customers that you're trying to attract, and if you look at your neighborhood, right, you might find some of those gaps again in your customer base. So really look at who you're attracting to. If you're in a really high-end neighborhood, but your center is set up to attract Walmart customers, that might be something that you really need to think about, right? Because remember, all of this, enrolling children is like getting them to your center to tour. That's only the first step, right? So you need to really make sure that your center is the center that they're choosing. So you really need to make sure that your center is really performing based on your market. Okay, if here where I live in Fernley, if I were to really have like a super rigid center that is, more like a private boarding school style, really, really, I don't want to say high end, but almost, like I would say like the Macy's of childcare centers, it would never fly in my demographic because the people here are, just worn out jeans type of cowboy boot people, right? They're not that really high end type of customer base. So you've got to know your area and really look at what are you serving, So that's something just to really understand and know too. Like I know for a while when I first started business here, I actually moved to this area from Reno where it was a little bit more businessy, and I came from a very, very high end neighborhood before where I was working. And as the owner out here, I was wearing business suits every day and I was dressing up really nice, and it just wouldn't fly here. I mean, people just kind of like I was like an outsider, and I mean till this day I'm still overdressed compared to what it is out here. But it was kind of funny because when the first time I ever wore jeans to my center, um, my assistant director, who is now my director, she was just like, "Wow, you're one of us now. You're wearing jeans." But that is you do you don't want people to be uncomfortable. So on the other hand, if you are also wearing sweats and leggings in a really high end and your customer base are lawyers and doctors and really high level professionals, think about that too, right? So I mean in childcare it's really tough on our staff to really always look super professional. So I'm not saying by any means that you want to go in that direction, but you also have to just make sure also that your staff does look the part, right? And even in our area you still have to keep up that professionalism. So image is incredibly important, and knowing who your customer base is incredibly important so that that the messaging you're putting out there, right? And also that the target areas that you're going for are going to be targeting the kind of customers that you're going for. So like if you're advertising at like Little League games, make sure you're advertising with the Little League team that's close to your center, not one that's way across town, right? So knowing your customer base, who they are, is very important. I mean, if you start thinking about like if you know that you are here where I am serving Jeep type of people who love to go out Jeeping, right? They love their Jeeps, they love off-roading, they love hunting, fishing. So, those are the kind of people I'm serving. Those are the kind of people I'm going to market to. That's also where I know the type of areas that I'm going to market to, right? So that'll also help you to understand where to place your marketing. Okay, where the kids are and where the families are, things like that, right? So just knowing your market is extremely important. So, go beyond the questions I've asked you in the workbook. That is really, again, just a very rough starting point for you guys here. And but really just get to know them. I mean, like I said, you guys, I went as deep as to what kind of car do they drive, what kind of dinners are they cooking, do they ever eat fast food, do they not, would they prefer just is fast food something they wouldn't eat because it's not organic. Just really know your customer base, because it's going to make your tours, your answering out the phones, how you talk to parents, when you really understand who you're talking to, makes it so much easier to market to them. So, and if you are an owner, make sure your director understands this. If you're a director, it's so important that you know who you're talking to. And when you're coming up with advertisements, whether you're doing a Facebook ad or you're just posting a flyer at the supermarket, you need to know who you're talking to, right? It is so important. I mean, think about an advertisement that targets you, okay, as a consumer, right? You are going to be attracted to certain ones. You're attracted to certain type of advertising. And that's because they're talking to your demographic, okay? So just think about that. I know, as we get older, our demographic changes. When we're younger, it's one thing. And it just kind of, I know for like my 21-year-old son, He fits a totally demographic and a different demographic. And if someone's trying to sell something to him, they're going to sell it very differently than they would to me. So just keep that in mind. So do you guys have any more questions for today? So that is what I have for you today. Tomorrow we're going to go on a lot more detail about being online and how to really just crush the market online. I will talk to you guys a little bit about SEOs, which are search engine optimization, and how you can make sure that you are top of the list for your area, for your program. And just there's a lot of free stuff, you guys, that you can take advantage of out there, and it will get your center to the top of searches. I've done all of this for my center for free when I was a struggling owner. I really didn't have the money to pay for advertising, so I really learned how to make sure that my center was the #1 center that came up on SEOs, and just really made that, I really made sure that I was really visible in the market. So it's something I just had to teach myself how to do, and it's really easy. A lot of people don't know what to do, but once you know how to do it, it is so easy, you guys. It is something you've got to keep up with. So I will definitely go into a lot of that tomorrow, give you guys details on how I do it for my center so that you guys can start working on it. That is something that you guys can really just start doing pretty quickly. So any questions for me today, guys, or anything else? Any takeaways? And again, even after this is done, if you're watching the replay, feel free to ask me questions, and I will be hopping on later this evening to answer questions. Thank you, Miriam. I'm glad you guys were here. I'm always happy to help. And then also my podcast this week, I did talk a little bit more about filling the gap. So if you guys wanted to hear more about that, then, of course, I'm going to promote my podcast. So yes, you're excited to hear about SEOs. Good. I'm glad you're excited. SEOs can be pretty boring, but they are super, super important, you guys. Ambitiously determined. So you got to message me your real name. I absolutely love your screen name, by the way. Last night when I messaged you, I had to tell my husband, I actually had to show my husband, like, look, she's got the coolest screen name ever. So that is an awesome name, but you got to message me your real name. I'm super curious. So I will see you guys tomorrow at 4 p.m. again. And if you have any questions in between that, please feel free to message me or leave it on the page. And then if there's anything you guys want me to talk about Saturday for the Q&A time, just let me know. So I'm going to go cook dinner for my family. I hope you guys all have a wonderful night. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.